two of the most talented strikers in the UFC squaring off in a 5-round war. It takes place this upcoming Saturday, UFC Vegas 42. Let's get into it.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 42. Another fight card awaits us. Now, obviously, we just came off 2 giant fight cards, so it's going to be a little bit of a step down as far as the talent and the excitement goes for this fight card, but and not so much so in the main event. The main event is definitely a big-time fight. Max Holloway taking on Yair Rodriguez. Other than that, though, just some middle-of-the-road type of fights. Overall, I'm going to rate this fight card a C-. But again, don't get it twisted. It's not a bad fight card. There's some exciting fights here for us to look forward to. Before we get into the breakdown of today's episode, please do hit that like button for me. You guys know how I always say this. Supposedly, it helps with the algorithms. So please hit that like button for me. Help the channel grow a little bit over here. It's highly appreciated if you guys can do that for me, and hit that subscribe button as well. Now, you know we're going to be doing a little recap of UFC Vegas 268, a giant fight card, like we said. I felt that it very much so delivered. The big name fights, they came through. The main event started a little slow, but it did pick up. We had 5 official plays. We'll be getting into what plays we hit, what plays we missed. And with no further ado, we're going to slide over to UFC 268. Let's go over there. So, UFC 268, let's see where we went right. Let's see where we went wrong. Again, 5 official plays going into this fight card. We'll start at the first fight as we slide through. Ode Osbourne takes out CJ Vergara. Now, this kind of started the card off for us on the wrong foot. I did have a play on CJ Vergara, a 3-unit play, which you guys are going to catch wind that I had quite a few amount of 3-unit plays on this fight card, and I was really attacking the underdogs here. CJ Vergara dominates the 3rd round. The 1st round was very close. He landed some big shots at the last seconds. Some people arguably thought he won the fight. It was a very close fight. It came down to that 1st round because Ode handled business in the 2nd round, and the judges had it for Ode there. You can't really blame, you can't blame Ode, or you can't blame the judges. CJ just didn't bring that energy from the very beginning. He should have pushed the pace a little bit more so, in my opinion, in those early parts of the 1st round. Just kind of put a stamp on that 1st round there. If he could have brought that same energy he had in the last 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just a little bit earlier, he takes that 1st round, he takes the fight. But again, it was a big dog stab. It was a plus 155 stab. And, it's a fight that I really have no regrets taking. I think that CJ is a talented kid. He missed weight. Maybe that had something to do with him not pushing the pace early. I stand behind that play there. And to the next play, Melsik Bagsadarian takes out Bruno Souza. This was the start of a 2-team parlay. It was the biggest play of the night for me, the biggest wager for me here. So Melsik kicks things off there. And Melsik looked okay. The striking, you saw flashes of the striking, but he looked to slow down a little bit in the later half of the fight. I wasn't overly impressed. I thought he really could have steamrolled Bruno, but Bruno showed to be a crafty karate style fighter, and he was crafty on the feet. Dustin Jacoby takes out John Allen, or John Allen, I guess it is nowadays. Maybe I just made that up in the first place that it was Allen. I guess because he's from Brazil. I assume there was a little bit of a twist on the name. But Dustin Jacoby looked good. John did have his moments as well. I told you John's not a bad fighter. But at the end of the day, Jacoby was just too diverse in the feet. Chris Barnett takes out John Vellante with the wild wheel kick. You got to like this guy, Chris Barnett, now. I told you this guy's an athletic guy that throws dangerous strikes out there. I worry a little bit about his cardio. You saw him kind of fade against Ben Rothwell, but again, he took that fight on short notice. So maybe we keep an eye on Chris Barnett. He's a fun character. I love the way he came out when he was walking out to the cage. The guy's an entertaining guy. Great post-fight speech, and what a finish there. Now, Ian Gary takes out Jordan Williams. This wraps up the 2-team parlay that we did have here. And that was a 5-unit play on Ian Gary and Melsik Bagsadarian. And if you guys weren't familiar with Ian Gary, like I said, you guys were going to be familiar with him after this fight card took place. And, Ian Gary, I love what he's doing, man. He's kind of branching off Conor McGregor, but obviously has his own twist to it. Good-looking dude, big guy. Seems to be a little bit more of a respectful type of guy, but you never know. Maybe, he'll be taking over like... I don't know, maybe like not too good with the Marvel type stuff, but maybe like a Venom thing, that black thing that takes over the guys, makes them kind of bad. Maybe as the fame gets to him, we'll see a little bit of that. But this guy, Ian Gary, without a doubt, whether his personality is similar or different than Conor McGregor, similar style of striking, pinpoint accuracy, beautiful slip and rip, looked very reminiscent to the Eddie Alvarez knockout that Conor had. This guy Gary's the real deal. That wrapped up the parlay there. Boom, we hit that 2-team 5-unit parlay there. Nasruddin Almavov takes out Edmund Shabazian. That's 3 losses in a row for Edmund now. This guy was one of the top prospects in the game not too long ago. All 3 losses were to tough opponents. He's still very young. I think he has plenty of room to bounce back, but maybe the UFC wants to groom him through the division a little bit easier, give him some softer fights there, man. They're giving him these very tough opponents. He's still very young, and if they don't watch out, he's going to lose 4 fights in a row, and they might be pushed to cut the guy, and maybe we'll see him over at Bellator, but hopefully they give him a little bit of a step down in competition. Nasruddin is a tough opponent, and this was a regret for me. This was a fight that I was very, very close to locking in an official play, and I regretted. And speaking of regrets, I got the DMs to show it to you. Obviously, it doesn't mean nothing, man. I was talking with a friend about this fight. We called it the night before. I said I regretted not taking Chris Curtis. I said, the more we look into this fight, we thought that Chris was probably going to get a later knockout in the 2nd or 3rd round, like we talked about. Again, I did end up rolling with Phil Hawes just as a pick. No official action here. The value was definitely more so on Chris's side. I didn't expect the early knockout, but Phil Hawes has defensive flaws. Usually he gasses out and then gets tagged up. Has been looking good as of recently, but I do regret not picking Chris here. He was the correct pick, man. This guy is a very solid fighter. You take the 2 losses, take a look at the 2 losses he's had as of recently to very, very high caliber opponents over there in PFL. Chris is legit. And I didn't want to disrespect him. I thought the line was somewhat disrespectful, but Phil Hawes also has been looking great too. So let's not act like that's not the case. All right, speaking of looking amazing as of recently, Bobby Green. I don't know what Bobby Green's got going on right now, but, he's no spring chicken, but the guy's looking better and better every time he goes out there. He looked absolutely amazing against Al Iaquinta. I know Al had the long layoff here, but, nobody goes out there and just styles on Al Iaquinta like that, the way that Bobby Green just did, and finish him, and the way that he did that with the jab cross to the ground strikes, as Tapology likes to describe it. Bobby Green has been looking so fluid on the feet, so quick. He's a very, very dangerous man in the division right now. So we keep an eye on Bobby Green. I expect a big fight moving forward for Bobby Boy. All right, now we're going to talk about some a loss here, and this is I picked Alex Pereira to win, but again, you guys know I was rooting for Andreas Michailidis. I wanted him to win this fight, so although I was correct on the pick, I was not really so happy about the loss there. I was rooting for Andreas. Now in the first round, you saw Andreas take that round there by kind of pushing the grappling, pushing the clinch, hanging on him. That was something that I was worried about. I saw people talking about Pereira was such a lock. I still feel differently. I didn't want nothing to do with that. You saw him lose that first round. If he didn't time that perfectly flying knee, which was spectacular, what happens if Michailidis is able to grab him again and again and maybe starts getting him even more tired, get some takedowns? I really didn't want nothing to do with that. I need to see more proof that he can keep the fight on the feet. His striking is spectacular. He might be the best striker in the UFC right now, man. This is a serious fighter, but we got to see him be a little bit more proven. Okay, on the mat and with this takedown defense, we have to. 5 professional fights now. All right, now that takes us to the next fight, which was an official play of mine. I told you guys we had some dogs here. Justin Gaethje takes out Michael Chandler. I had a 3-unit play on Chandler here, and Chandler landed some big shots. I was willing to go after the value here. Like I said, that was kind of the theme I went for in this card. I knew Gaethje's a spectacular fighter. It was going to be more technical, but he is vulnerable to be hit at times. As we saw, Chandler was teeing off on him, but Gaethje's chin is just ridiculous. It never wears. All the damage he's taken through the years, it's still there. It's just like punching mahogany, and Gaethje ends up, really taking over this fight towards the end. Although Chandler had some moments, and in all actuality, it came down to that third round. According to the judges, it came down to that third round, okay? So they did give Michael Chandler the first round with those big shots he was landing. And, in the third round, Chandler was very close to solidifying a takedown that maybe could have changed the pace of the fight. But eventually, Gaethje, reverses that, rolls with it, and Gaethje looked amazing. Big props to Gaethje. He should be next or right in contention for fighting for the belt very soon here. All right, now Shane Burgos takes out Billy Q. Excellent fight. Very, very entertaining fight. It was a little bit of a tough fight to really to appreciate after what just took place before that in Gaethje and Chandler, because those guys delivered in such a way. It really made anything after that look a little bit lackluster. Now, speaking of being correct but not really wanting to be correct, Marlon Chito Vera takes out Frankie Edgar. I wanted Frankie to win this fight. I called Chito to get that knockout, and he ends up getting that knockout in the third round. A very close fight. Frankie won the first round, with that takedown and whatnot. I think it was the first, and I think it was a close fight. I'm really curious to see how that fight would have went if Frankie didn't get knocked out, but it's almost like you saw it coming. When you saw Marlon walking him down, you saw this knockout coming, and I think that might be all she wrote for Frankie. Maybe he gets one more fight. Maybe they give him a little bit of an easier fight against an older opponent or something like that, but Frankie ain't going to be around much longer, man. The chin it's bad at this point. He's getting taken out, man, in devastating ways constantly. It's not cool. He's a family guy. He can't be doing that. And, if it's up to him, he'll fight up until he's 50. He'll just keep going. He's so tough. Now, we got another official play here. Another 3-unit play. Got it at even odds. Rose Namajunas takes out Weili Zhang. Very close fight. I thought Rose did enough. I believe I had it 1-4-5 for Rose, and I felt very comfortable about it. The reason why I say it, I'm forgetting if it was the round 1 or round 2. I was looking back at this, but I just know that as I had my screen glued to my face as we went to the 5th round, I said whoever wins this round is going to win the fight. I felt very comfortable about that. And Rose had a beautiful trip takedown that she faked Zhang out with and got that takedown completely, caught her off guard, set it up beautifully, took that round, was in control for the entire round there, and and that was a 3-unit hit. I thought that everybody should have been on Rose in this spot here. She's really proven now that she is the kingpin or the queen pin of the division. She's amazing, the striking, the grappling. I love her frame for the division. And after that knockout in the first fight, how can you not take her there? I get it, Zhang's tough, but And again, I thought Rose won that fight convincingly 3-2. I know some of you guys will disagree. You guys can hit the comment section up. I saw a couple of you guys. I thought Rose definitely deserved to win that fight, no question. You know, she's the champion going into that fight, and I thought those 3 rounds were hers. All right, and that takes us to the last play, which was another 3-unit dog stab, a big-time dog stab, plus 250. I took the shot on Colby. Came down to 1 round. Whether you guys believe that or not, it came down to 1 round. I don't like the game plan Colby had going into this fight. He completely gave the first round away. A little bit hesitant in this fight. Might have been fearing the power of Usman here. Did not want to engage early. It took him a while to kind of open up. You got to respect both these guys. Both these guys are legends. These guys are without a doubt 2 of the top 3 welterweights in the world right now. You got Khamzat number 1, Usman number 2, and then Colby. All right, Khamzat coming to a town near you. Colby solidified that takedown. Khamzat is taking Kamaru up in the air and slamming him down on his butt, man. So we're gonna see what Kamaru's ground game looks like and how he looks off his back relatively soon when Khamzat gets that shot towards the beginning of 2022. All right, guys, these are bold words from the teller. I'm letting you guys know right now. All right, but in all seriousness, big respect to both these guys. Big respect to Kamaru Usman, who's really carving out a name for himself as the greatest welterweight of all time. It's him and GSP. We can go back and forth on that. You could talk about the accolades, but Usman is just nasty, man. But there's no doubt that Covington is right there with him. It's just a little bit of a step behind Usman. He really is. He's a little bit of a step behind. I would have liked to have seen Colby had that same style from the first fight. Bring the fight. You saw Colby wobbling Usman, clipping him. Bring the fight. You might get knocked out, but you know what? if you take that style and you just give a round away, look, it ended up biting you in the butt there. Some people thought Colby won 3, 4, and 5. I think that's a little bit of a push there. You can give Colby rounds 4 and 5, I think it was, but it was Usman's fight. He's the champion. That's Usman's fight all day. And you could try to argue that it could have been a 10-8 round also when Usman dropped Colby, but it didn't seem really like the judges. I think one judge might have given them 10-8. And that's going to wrap up the card. Check this out now. We go 2 for 5, but it's only just minuscule losses. Check the numbers out. Check the numbers out there. We only lost 2.2 units or so. You know, the parlay brought in a good amount of units back. The Rosenama unit scratched out one of those dog plays right there. So we lose one of the dog plays there overall. And overall, it's a -2 unit play. Again, we can crunch the numbers on that if you want again. So, basically -3 there for the Colby, the Rosenama units gaining those 3 units. That scratches that out right there. Okay. Then we lose 3 units on Chandler. We're down -3 units there. But now we're gonna get that back in the 2-team parlay plus some. All right. So then we're basically just down to 3 units on the Odie fight. And then we're even chipping into that 3 units a little bit by way of that parlay. Bringing back over 3 units. So, we're right in that 2.2 down for the card, which is nothing. We'll make that on our first play on this next weekend's card. So, you guys know what it is. Follow me on Instagram. I already was chipping away at that yesterday, enjoying the Miami Dolphins game. Had some action on them. Had a 2 unit play for me over here. $1,100 to win $550. So, it was enjoyable, man. I was jumping around the stadium. You guys go check me out on Instagram, _MMA_FortuneTeller. Catch me on Twitter. The MMA Teller. My email is the MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com. MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com. If any of you guys are looking to work with me moving forward, reach out to me. If you guys have any questions about what I got going on here, if you want to work with me, if you want me to advertise your company or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I am more than available to be contacted, man, for any of your concerns, any questions you guys got. I appreciate all of you. And that's going to wrap up UFC 268. You guys know what time it is now. We move forward. UFC Vegas 42. Hey, you guys, I've told you about Bovada.lv a few times, telling you about it again. If you're looking for a sports book, looking for a new sports book to join, or you just are new to the sports betting world and you're looking to get involved with betting online, Bovada.lv is the website I recommend to you guys. Reach out to me through email, Instagram, Twitter, whatever's easier for you. MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com. On Instagram, MMAFortuneTeller_. Twitter, the MMA Teller. Shoot me a message. I want to send my referral link to you guys. You guys sign up through that link. We're both going to get an additional bonus into our accounts. And I'm also going to help guide you through the website, show you how everything works. And it has it all here, man. I'm telling you guys. Bovada.lv, 24/7 customer service through phone. They have all the fights. If you guys are into betting on more than just MMA and on the UFC, they got politics, all that stuff. I mean, it's really one of the more deep sports books. But as you guys see, hopefully I'm not blocking them over here. You could see all the UFC lines ready to go, and we could see the lines all the way up to December. You see lines, the Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira fight. We got DP at a -155, Oliveira +130 right now. The champion is the dog. Interesting here. Masvidal at a +170. Shoot me a message if you're interested in taking that referral link. Again, you're going to start off with a bonus in your account. You put $100 in, you're starting with 150, 50% bonus. And if you're interested, do not hesitate. Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to show you how everything works here. Thank you, guys. So in the first fight of the card, we got two 205ers squaring off. Kennedy and Chekowu taking on Jung, the Korean versus the Nigerian here. An international type of fight. Although, of course, Kennedy is in the States now training at Fortis MMA. Kennedy, a big boy. I've compared him in a lot of ways to seeing an NBA type player fighting in the UFC. 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. One of the longest reaches we have in the UFC. Da Jung with a 78.5-inch reach. So, of course, no real surprise that Jung's going to have a little bit of a disadvantage there. Although Jung is a big boy, do not forget he's 6'4" as well, 27 years old. And let's talk about Jung here for a second. Jung coming off a big win against William Knight. Now, that was a fight that he was a little bit of a dog in, I do believe, if I remember correctly. And he was able to really use his grappling. Jung has a nice jab. His boxing is not bad at all, but he's looking to be a very A very well-rounded fighter as of recently. He's using the grappling. William Knight, in my opinion, is no joke. The guy's a beast of a man, and to go out there and drown him in the later rounds and just really have a high IQ in that fight and take that fight there, that is a nice little feather in your cap. Again, because I am high on William Knight. Of course, William Knight bounced back with the big victory already, and knocked his opponent out quickly. So you saw some of the defensive. The defensive skills that Jung has as well, avoiding those big shots. He is a very technically sound striker, and a very well-rounded fighter. I do like Da Un Jung. 14-2-1. He's been handling business for a while now. You take a look at some of his earlier fights in his professional career, getting a lot of finishes. Now, Kennedy and Chekwu, again, a big boy. I would say as of recently, and maybe throughout his entire career, his biggest victory was against Carlos Olberg, who you guys know to be the very, very talented kickboxer who fights out of City Kickboxing. And in that fight, Kennedy was teed off on. Many other men are finished in that fight. And the reason why I bring this up is Kennedy is extremely durable. This guy can definitely take a shot. And not only can he take a shot, he has a very big heart. He eats those shots, and then he comes back and he starts to look to take you out. I mean, this guy's a warrior. Okay, you got to respect him. There's definitely some flaws in his game. He's a little bit upright at times. He kind of has a funky style. But again, he's, like I said, he's almost like an NBA player fighting. He has that kind of stature and that kind of... how do you say that? Like that kind of athletic ability. He's a little bit, and don't get me wrong, of course, there's NBA players that are extremely athletic, but I'm talking more so a guy that's a little bit posting up in the paint. He kind of has that type of movement. He's a little stiff at times with his legs, and I do think that Jung can be a little bit quicker to the punch in this fight. Jung's going to have to use his footwork, close the distance. I want to see Jung even trying to mix in some takedowns, maybe push him up against the cage. We have seen some performances where Jung didn't look to perform his best. The Sam Alvey fight, he started off slow in that fight. He was really chasing Alvey around, and he gave in to Alvey's game plan. I always talk about Alvey's game plan. He's looking to counter punch you. If Jung wanted to, he could have sat back and won that fight so easily by just working the legs and being more patient with his boxing, but instead was chasing him around the octagon and then getting countered a lot. One judge had that fight for Alvey, one judge had that fight for Jung, and then one judge had it a draw based on giving a 10-8 to Jung, because Jung did finish that fight very strongly. And if you remember, Jung was very, very aggressive in that fight. So you do like the fact that if you got money on him, he's going to be showing up for your money. He's going to be chasing his opponent around. He's going to be looking to take them out. This isn't a guy that's just, sitting there giving a decision away. I am a fan of Jung's, a very talented Korean fighter fighting at a Korean top team. And this is a good fight here. This is an excellent fight. It's going to be hard for Jung to put out Kennedy if he's throwing those big shots. Like I said, Kennedy has a granite chin. But I do think that Jung will be a little bit quicker to the punch, a little bit more technical. Kennedy's going to land some shots too, so Jung needs to be careful there and make sure he has a good defensive game, doesn't get tagged and finished there. I expect Jung to maybe try to mix in a takedown and whatnot, but Kennedy has been working on that as well. He's working on his overall craft. We've seen it throughout the last couple fights. If he starts stuffing takedowns and he's able to implement his style, start walking forward, it could be a good night for him as well. At the end of the day, though, I'm siding with Jung here. Again, I've liked what I've seen from him a little bit more so. It seems to be a little bit more of a promising fighter, as Kennedy is a little bit more of an X factor with his skill set. Right now, Jung right around a -135 favorite. With depending on what book you're looking at, some books even have money coming in on Chekwu, and it's a close fight. I will take the Korean there to win that fight. Mark the Bone Crusher Diakese taking on Rafael Alves. Diakese. He's really been a little bit of a letdown as far as the potential this kid once had. If you guys remember, I remember breaking him down way back in the day when he had his first fight in the UFC, first and second fights. I had him ranked as one of the top prospects in the game. The guy is just, he's ferocious. He seemed to be just so quick in there too. His movement was just so fluid and so quick. Eventually makes the move over to American top team. I thought that there was some big things to come from him. And then of course, he's had some bumps in the road. And it all started with that Jakar close fight. If you remember, he tried to get in Jakar's face. They had a little bit of a beef at the weigh-ins and whatnot. Close took that fight. He was able to control him against the cage the entire time. Hooker goes out there, finishes him. Nasrat goes in there, styles on him as well. Bounces back with 2 victories, but then he loses again to Rafael Fiziev. And it just seems like when he's in there as of recently, it's just like his opponent kind of lands some big shots early in the fight, and it's like Diakese almost knows that he's down. He'll try to strike back a little bit, but you can tell in his demeanor that he's not the alpha in the fight. It's like, he's for every 1 shot he lands, he's getting landed on twice. Does have a little bit of some defensive flaws, but again, if he were to clean things up and get his head right, he's a very talented fighter. Do you guys remember? Run the tape back. Do you remember when, by the time he had that knockout over Timo Packlin, which that fight took place over in Europe, that was his 4th fight. No, excuse me, that was his 3rd fight straight in the UFC, 3 straight wins, and people were so high on him at the time, man. 11-0 undefeated, and again, we talked about the setbacks after that. Rafael Alves, this is a guy, right, training out of MMA Masters. We heard a lot about them this week with Colby over there. I've had the pleasure of watching Rafael fight live over in Titan Fighting Championships. I saw this knockout over here against Felipe Douglas. And, I was very impressed from what I saw from him. I've been impressed from what I've seen from him all throughout. If you take a look at his Contender Series fight, looked great there, got the finish, gets a chance to fight in the UFC. Unfortunately for him, look at the man that he's fighting, Damir Ismagulov. If you guys are not well-versed with who he is, this guy is one of the top fighters in the division. This guy is under the radar, extremely technical. He's not necessarily some stone cold killer getting finishes out there, but this guy knows how to get his hand raised. So he goes to a decision with him, and now he has a major step down in competition, in my opinion, in Mark Diakese. Rafael Alves actually landed some big shots on Damir early. Has ferocious power, has finishing ability with his submissions. I like Alves as a fighter here, or in general, and I like him in this spot here. I like him to take out Diakese. When I say take out, I'm not necessarily saying to finish him, which is, it's possible, but I'm saying to take him out to get that W. I like Alves, his well-roundedness. At times, he slows down a little bit in some of his fights, so hopefully he's coming in good shape here. He's a little muscle-bound, a little bit explosive, but I like Alves to win the fight. Only 31 years old, and we're going to see the best version of him in this fight right now. He needs to get that first UFC victory. We take a look at the line. He's right around a plus 135 dog. And on some books, action coming in on Diakese, 160, minus 165 for Diakese. So people are holding on to him. They think that, he still has that talent and he could show up and showcase it in the octagon. We'll see how that works for him. Fight taking place Saturday. Diakese will have his chance then. I will be rolling with Alves, though. I like Alves to win the fight. But again, if Diakese does show up and lives up to the potential on fight night, he's a guy that can give anybody some trouble in there. But over the last couple of years, we have not consistently seen that. All right, so Alves is the pick for me. Courtney Cast Iron Casey taking on Liana Jojua. Let's start with Courtney Casey here. For those of you guys that are not well versed with her, you're going to look at her record. You see that she's 9-9, and you think that she's a complete scrub. It's not the case, though. It's not the case at all. She's actually very similar to Randa Marcos in the sense that these girls have battled in the UFC for some time. They're fighting the best fighters. They grew up in the octagon, and although their record is right around that 500 range, when you're fighting the best fighters in the world, it's not that bad of a thing compared to some of these other women that have records as 10-2, but I've only fought in the UFC 1 or 2 times. So understand that Courtney is a very dangerous fighter. Her striking is nasty. I actually put her striking at the top of the division. She's a very nasty striker. She's shown to have been working on her grappling game at times, right? She just pulled off an armbar over the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Mayra Barella. I believe she is a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And, victory over Angela Hill via split decision. That's a big win there. But losses to Cynthia, Calvillo, Jillian Robertson, where she was really shown to have some flaws in her grappling, like we talked about. She was taken down and kind of dominated there, and then a split decision loss to JJ Aldrich. So even some of her losses, and you could run it back even further back than her last 5 fights. She's been in a lot of close fights. She's had a lot of split decisions, and again, the 9-9 record is not indicative of who she is as a fighter. Liana Jojua, 8-4. This is a girl that, she's 1-2 in the UFC right now. Got finished by Sarah Moras. That's not a good look there. She was really controlled against the cage in that fight as well. She did pull off the armbar over Diana Belbita. But, okay, give her props there. I mean, she's tricky off her back. I do believe that her BJJ is fluid. It's technical. It's pretty solid. But a lot of other aspects in her game are not the best. Miranda Maverick was able to get the TKO stoppage there from a doctor's cut. She bloodied her up really bad, if you guys remember that fight. I will say this, though. If you watch the beginning of that fight of Jojua and Miranda, Jojua actually looked pretty good towards the beginning of that fight. Her striking looked to have evolved at the time. She was throwing some nice strikes there that I haven't really seen in her previous fights. So you got to wonder, she's only 26 years old. You got to actually know her striking is going to continue to get better. She's putting in a lot of time. She's a tough Georgian chick. And, you got to be careful knowing or not knowing what kind of fighter is going to be showing up if you're taking Courtney here. But again, Courtney on paper is much more of a polished fighter. I think that Courtney is vulnerable to being submitted, though. So you got to watch out. You got to watch out with an arm as far as Courtney goes. Jojua might pull off another submission there. Like I said, she was quick with her hips and whatnot off the mat. And, Casey will have a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. And, I'm leaning towards Courtney here. You see Courtney over at the MMA lab. You see... what's his name? Casey Kenny over here, one of the more talented fighters in the UFC, and they're walking around the same weight. These people here. I mean, Casey, of course. Well, I shouldn't say Casey. They both got the name Casey in their name. That's why I'm getting confused over here. Kenny is obviously going to be walking around a little bit higher in weight. I'm sure he's cutting down. But still, I'm sure they get in a lot of work together. That's the point I'm making here. And remember now, Casey's husband is Drakkar Klose. We talked about him earlier. I think they have a kid together and all that too. So, she is deeply involved in the fight game. And the MMA lab, of course, one of the best gyms out there. So she's just always getting in proper work there. And Jojua, the UFC definitely wants to build her, and they want her to show up. I think they would really like to have her deliver in her fights and try to branch off some potential she has. And let's see here, a little video of her with Khabib. What is this over here? What do you think is going through Khabib's mind over here? I mean, I'm surprised if he even looks at her, right? Based on some of the things that he said. Kind of a strange dude with that. He doesn't like ring girls. He's an odd fella. But Jojua was happy to post that. And this will be a fun one to watch. And at the end of the day, though, I got to ride with Courtney. She's 34 years old, but you know what? I don't put too much stock into that. I think she'll show up just as sharp as ever. I like Courtney Casey to win that fight. And that will take us to the next fight. We got Sean Woodson taking on Collin Anglin, taking place in the featherweight division. Sean Woodson, one of the most rangy and lengthy fighters in the division. Walks around, 6'2" with the 79-inch reach for the division. That's very, very long. Knows how to work the knees as well. We've seen him really, really shine in some fights. He looked great, obviously, in Dana White's Contender Series, where he knocked out Terrence McKinney, who has since been looking really good in the UFC himself. Kyle Bochniak, he was able to style on him there. And then Julian Erosa kind of spoiled the party there, right? You heard him pulled off that Darce choke, showing that Sean Woodson is not necessarily this... top-notch prospect that a lot of people maybe thought he was. Maybe he still is, but that pumped the brakes on that a little bit. He bounces back with a split decision victory over Yusuf Zalal. And Zalal's a tough customer, but he also hasn't been looking as great going into that fight as he was towards the beginning of his UFC career. So I'm interested to see how Sean Woodson looks here. Still only 9 professional fights. His opponent, Collin Anglin, only 10 professional fights. These guys have a lot of room for growth. They haven't even hit their 30s yet. Collin pulled off a big-time victory over Naimov on that Dana White's Contender Series card. He was an underdog. He opened as a favorite, but he did close as an underdog in that fight. And he showed up and looked to be a very durable and tough fighter. This guy hangs around. He's a well-rounded guy. That's the best way I can describe him. He's a very well-rounded fighter that's very tough. He checks off all the boxes, but those checks aren't necessarily the best checks. You know what I mean? He's not the most impressive with all those checks. had a loss against Melsek Melsek. We'll call him Melsek Bagdasarian. A guy that we were just talking about earlier. We had him in that 2-team parlay. You see Collin landing a nice shot there, but let's not forget Collin was put out by Melsek in that fight via head kick knockout. So coming off a tough loss here, we'll see how Collin bounces back. Sean Woodson, a pretty hefty favorite here. We'll take a look at the live line. We got Woodson right now, right around that minus 290 to 280 range. So, he's a hefty favorite. I tend to think that Sean Woodson's going to be able to use his striking here, and he could potentially hurt Collin like we saw in the last fight. And I do think that Woodson has more potential, but I do think the line is a little off here, in my opinion. Collin as a plus 220 dog. He is a fighter that really brings the fight, like I talked about. Maybe a little bit of disrespect there, but at the end of the day, I do side with Sean Woodson. You take a look at this picture here. Looks like it was taken with a sock. Looks like they took the picture there with the sock. But again, just know he's getting that work in over there, and I will side with him to win that fight. But the line may be a little bit disrespectful, but I got Sean Woodson to win it. Miguel Baeza taking on Khaos Williams. This has all the makings to be an exciting fight. Two guys that favor the striking. They're very good at it. Both have knockout power. Their styles are a little bit different, though. Miguel Baeza, a little bit more of a technician in there, a little bit patient. He'll use his counter attacks as well. Throws beautiful calf kicks. He definitely will bring the fight, though. When he feels that he can start to take over, he definitely will bring the fight as well. Khaos Williams, in my opinion, a little bit more of a fighter that's on the front foot, that's moving forward at times. Again, you break down tape on these guys. Of course, every fight's different. But Baeza has really impressed me over the years, although he is coming off a major loss, and that loss was very disappointing because if he takes out Ponzinibbio there, he's still undefeated, and Ponzinibbio is a big name in the game to have a W over. Big props to Ponzinibbio for coming in after not being so active as of recently, but he comes in and he still gets the victory there, and that was a hell of a fight. They really went at it. Baeza had some moments, he landed some big shots, but Baeza seemed to fade in that fight, and I don't think it was necessarily that he faded from being tired or gassed out. It was a high-paced fight, and he got clipped with some big shots, and I think it kind of wore on him. And that's a problem here because Khaos Williams is a guy that pushes that same type of pace and lands big shots. If you're even able to survive those shots, because he'll finish you as well. Khaos Williams, you guys know the deal with Khaos. Ever since he bursted on the scene against Alex Morono, it knocks him out early, takes out Abdul Razak Al Hassan early. Did have that setback against Michel Pereira, but then bounced back with the big victory over Matthew Semmelsberger. Now, Matthew Semmelsberger just had a big victory in his own right too. So we know that Semmelsberger is a legit fighter. That was a big win there. Khaos is without a doubt a legit fighter. Has a crazy reach for the division. I believe his reach is 77 inches. He's only 6 foot. Baeza 6'2" with the 74.5-inch reach, fighting at an MMA Masters, one of the staples down over there. Baeza now 29 years old. We'll bounce back to Baeza again real quick. Baeza made a name for himself on Dana White's Contender Series. Had some big wins in the UFC. You see him taking out what's his name? Takashi. Is it Takashi Sato there? And this is when he was getting the contract by Uncle Dana. And in that fight too, on Dana White's Contender Series, he ate some big shots. He was a little bit slow in the beginning of that fight, but he started to pick up the pace as the fight was going. So he does do that at times in some of his fights. But he has a very tight guard. He's very sound defensively. And again, I like his calf kicks. Keep an eye on the calf kicks. But he has to be careful because when he's whipping those calf kicks around, Khaos Williams is going to be whipping those hooks up to his chin. And Khaos throws those shots from funky angles. He throws them from the hip, and he tends to land them. And again, I said it earlier, the power is legit. This is a very tricky fight. I really do believe that. I know Baez is more motivated than ever, taking his first loss in the UFC, as a professional. And Khaos Williams too, he lost 2 fights ago. He still knows, every fight is just as important as the next one. I know Khaos is coming. These guys are going to clash here. They're going to clash. And I'm going to edge Baeza here. If he's able to avoid that big shot where he gets finished or really kind of put on Queer Street, even if he's kind of just out on his feet and he's just not himself, I think that he will be a little bit more diverse on the feet. Excuse me. We saw in the Baeza fight against Khaos Williams, Michel Pereira and Khaos Williams, Pereira was able to mix things up. He was a little bit more diverse in the feet. He was able to take a decision there. I think Baeza can look into that fight a little bit and try to take some things from that. He needs to mix in the calf kicks, mix in some knees, some elbows, just come at Khaos from all different angles. And I can see him pulling off a decision, or do understand that Baeza has, fight finishing ability as well. Baeza is very, very legit and a very complete fighter. And I'll take Miguel Baeza to win the fight. We take a look at the live line. We got Baeza right now right around that minus 140 to 150 range. A slight favorite. And Khaos right around that plus 125, 120. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of action coming on Khaos and the line evens out a little bit over the fight week, because this is a very close fight. I'll take Miguel Baeza though. We got a women's flyweight bout over here. Cynthia Calvillo taking on Andrea KGB Lee. This is a good match here. Two of the top fighters in the division. And, Cynthia, unfortunately, coming off 2 losses, but against Jessica Andrade and Caitlin Chikogian, 2 fighters that are towards the top of the division, of course, as well. Andrea Lee coming off a big victory against Antonina Shevchenko. She looked very, very dominant in that fight. But when you really dissect that fight, you could look at it from a couple different angles. Antonina Shevchenko has now proven that she is completely inadequate on the mat. She is not a UFC caliber ground opponent. She has the striking. If she's able to keep the fight on the feet, she's a very talented Muay Thai type fighter. But she's a girl that, again, is just very, very elementary on the mat. I guess we got to give KGB props, though. I mean, she was ferocious there. She was doing damage within Shevchenko's guard. You saw her pulling the tricks out of her hat from her back, pulling off that nasty submission. She looked good in that fight. She looked very good in that fight. Again, she eventually ended up pulling off that submission. It was she had the triangle locked in. She was cranking on the armbar as well. That fight took place 4 months ago, so she's looking to jump off that momentum. 3 losses in a row before that, but let's not forget the Lauren Murphy fight. A lot of people thought that was a pretty bad robbery, and I had her winning that fight too, so shouldn't necessarily been 3 losses in a row. She did lose to Joanne Calderwood. That was another close fight as well that some people thought she may have won. The Roxanne Modafferi fight she drops. And, Cynthia, we know Cynthia is a very decorated wrestler as far as it goes for the division, right? I mean, she's one of the more talented wrestlers in the division. She has that in her back pocket. She has some good boxing. Cynthia is a solid fighter. Do not let the last 2 losses kind of skew your opinion on her. I mean, Cynthia is a tough girl, and she's been in there with some of the best fighters too. I mean, her resume is very, very deep. Went to a draw, a majority draw with Marina Rodriguez. You guys see what Marina's doing to these girls nowadays. Styled on Jessica Ai. She's been in there with, you name them, former champions. Esparza. She's been in there with Esparza. Carla Esparza. Although she did lose that fight. That was another close fight. She's now 34 years old, so father time is not necessarily on her time. Seems like she must have gotten the game pretty late, because it seems like her career has really flown by. I mean, I remember when she was just starting to make a name for herself, training at a Team Alpha Male. She was really hyped up. She is 34 already. Andrea, 32 years old. We're going to have a 2-inch height advantage for Andrea with a 5.5 inch reach advantage for Andrea Lee. So she really has something that she could work with there. I want to see Andrea Lee pumping that jab, trying to strike from the outside, throwing those front kicks, those T kicks and all that right to the midsection, trying to keep Cynthia on the outside. Cynthia is going to try to use her footwork, try to close the distance, and use some of her boxing skills, which we know she has. Again, we saw her really style on Jessica Ai. I know Jessica Ai is not necessarily the best fighter, but the way that Cynthia did show up, and was that a main event fight? I think that was a main event, if I remember correctly, man. But Cynthia showed up in that fight, so got to give her props there. Looks like she's working on some of her boxing here. What was that? She's with Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury has a big fight coming up against Jake Paul. Definitely will have a prediction video out to you guys on that. Looks like she's continuously working on her boxing, which is one of her strengths. Look at Marina Rodriguez down there, using her grappling to really rein in some ground and pound. I mean, she's a nasty fighter, is Cynthia. This is a good fight here. This is a really good fight. And, we're going to take a look at the live line right now on this matchup. We'll take a look together because the line is very close. I'm kind of interested to see which way it's leaning as of right now. Slight action coming in on Cynthia, it seems. Yep. A little bit of action coming in on Cynthia, opening up around that minus 105. It's dropping to the minus 125. So slight movement there. I get it, man. If Cynthia comes in shape, motivated, I think that she has some skills that she brings to the table that she could really thrive in this fight with. Andrea, again, at times leaves those fights close. She leaves them close, and sometimes they don't go her way. When Andrea gets tagged with some shots, you'll notice from her at times she really she doesn't have the best look on her faces for the judges. When you kind of tag her up a little bit, she seems to kind of grimace, and she kind of pauses up and wobbles a little bit. If you guys know what I'm talking about in some of those fights, I think that's the reason why some of the judges have went against her in some of those fights. But she throws nasty knees. She has a good clinch game. She's very well rounded. This is an excellent fight here. My gut is just telling me Cynthia is the better fighter if she shows up and she performs up to the capability that she could perform at. Sometimes I feel like she leaves some of it. How do I say that? She's not fully performing to her ability in the octagon. I've seen some fights where I'm like, man, you got to just pick it up a little bit more. So I think the Esparza fight was a great example of that. I remember watching that fight. She left a little bit in the octagon. She didn't let it all out. However, you want to say that saying's giving me a tough time. You know what I'm talking about. You got to leave it all in the octagon, I guess. So you want to get it all out of you. All right. She's not always getting it all out of her. I'm going to say if she gets it all out of her this upcoming Saturday, that she'll be the superior fighter here, even if it's just by a little bit, even if it's just by winning via split decision. I think that I will lean Cynthia here. Again, she's been fighting some tough fights as of recently. Andrade is no joke. And Andrade put it on her, and she lost that fight, via knockout. So that's a tough loss there. I'm gonna say, you guys know, a lot of times when a fighter loses a fight, I look into the aspect of the motivation, because I know when you lose like that, it really, really motivates you to get back in the win column. Getting knocked out like that will do it more than anything. Of course, there's the X factor of losing a little bit of confidence and losing a little bit of your chin and whatnot. But in this division, I don't worry about the chin too much. She's a tough chick. I don't think Andrea's knocking her out necessarily. I think she'll be motivated enough. She comes in here and mixes up the entire game and edges this fight. I'll take Cynthia to win the fight. And she will have to get on the inside in this fight. Otherwise, Andrea Lee, she has a major leg reach and arm reach there. So if she works from the outside, it could be a long night for Cynthia. But I do not expect to see anything like this. I don't expect to see KGB brutalizing Cynthia on the ground with the ground game. Cynthia is very, very capable down there. I'll take Cynthia Calvillo to win that fight. I'm very excited for this fight here. Joel Alvarez taking on Thiago Moisés. Stylistically, this is a very cool matchup here. We're really going to get to see what this guy Alvarez is made of. Joel Alvarez, a very hot prospect in the game right now. He's been going out there submitting guys left and right. The Alexander Yokolov submission victory that was a year ago, that was very impressive. Looked decent on the feet too. You see that he's working on his striking game too, throwing the calf kicks out there, working on his boxing. But again, his bread and butter is his submission game. This guy's gone out there and finished so many guys on the mat, way before the UFC, his UFC career even started. This guy's been running through guys, getting finishes, finishing guys. Now, Thiago Moisés, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, is he going to be able to work his ground game on a guy like Moisés? I'm really, really excited to see how this fight takes place on the mat. I hope it does go down there. I hope this is not just a stand-up fight. Thiago Moisés, again, he's been looking great. Although he lost his last fight, it was against Islam Makhachev. We really can't look into that fight too much, in my opinion. You can't be too hard on him. Islam is just doing his thing. This guy is very, very legit, and he's getting this type of submission on almost anybody in the division right now. We'll see how Islam performs against the top guys in the division. Time will tell. But I do know that guys that are right around Alvarez and Moisés' level, we know what's going to happen in those types of fights with a guy like Islam. So, let's scratch that for a second. He wins 3 fights in a row before that, takes out Alexander Hernandez, who's been looking like a beast as of recently. Bobby Green, looking amazing as of recently. And Michael Johnson, he gets the submission there. The Michael Johnson fight, he actually was eating some shots though before he got that submission. I'm sure his game plan was just eventually to get this fight down to the mat, or get that fight down to the mat and pull off some type of submission. We do know Michael Johnson has had issues there at times, and Moisés, that's exactly what he did. So he had a good game plan there. But again, he was being tagged up a little bit on the feet, but also he's been looking good on the feet since that fight. Again, the Bobby Green fight, the Hernandez fight, he looked very, very good on the feet. He's quick and explosive on the feet. His striking still coming around. He's only 26 years old. So although he has the octagon experience here, he is the younger fighter indeed. Well, Joel Alvarez is 28 years old, but Joel also has a wealth of experience, even though it hasn't been in the UFC. This guy Joel is very talented, I'm very, very excited for this fight. If Joel Alvarez is able to go into this fight and pull off some type of submission victory, I think that this guy's stock will go through the ceiling. I truly believe that. If he's able to pull off a submission victory over the black belt and Thiago Moisés, the American Top Team product, forget about it. Everybody's going to be jumping on this train here, and Alvarez is going to be one of the more highly touted prospects in the division without a doubt. The X factor in this fight, to me, is going to be the striking. Who's really going to thrive in those striking situations? I think that's really the fighter that's going to win this fight, in my opinion. Again, Thiago Moisés is a nasty grappler, but I think Alvarez has proven he could hold his own. I think at least defensively he can avoid being submitted and should be able to hold his own there. And how do these striking matches take place? Who's going to be the better striker? We do know this. Joel Alvarez has a 6.5 reach advantage, while also having a, 5'10", 5'11"? I mean, a 5-inch height advantage. I mean, he's by far the larger man, comes in great shape. You guys know which way I'm going here. I'm going to pick the dog here. I'm taking Alvarez to win this fight. I think that if he lives up to... Well, I shouldn't say it like that. He should, not necessarily if he lives up to the potential. We don't know if he has that potential. If he ends up elevating his game to a level that is possible from some of the things that we've seen from him, if he starts to continue doing what he's doing and goes in there and implements what he wants to do here, takes out Thiago Moisés, again, his stock's going through the roof, and I think he has the potential to win this fight here. I'm going to take Joel Alvarez. He was initially supposed to be fighting my boy Christos Giagos not too long ago, and Giagos can hold his own, but I thought that was a tough matchup for Giagos as well. Alvarez is he's no joke right now. I'm gonna pick the Spaniard here. One of the best Spanish fighters in the game. Probably, I mean, who's a bigger fighter right now in the MMA world fighting out of Spain than Joel Alvarez? I mean, he's holding that flag right now. We talked about the boxing evolving too. You see him landing some big shots here on Joe Duffy. Joe Duffy, a guy we don't really hear about so much these days, but Duffy was a solid fighter. And again, we'll see how Moisés bounces back from that big loss. Still very, very young. This is an exciting fight. I'm excited about this fight. We take a look at the live line now. We talked about it. So Joel Alvarez up to a plus 190 underdog, depending on the book. Plus 180, plus 175. So he's a dog here. People understand that Moisés has more octagon experience, and people are siding with him for the most part. But do not be surprised when Joel goes out there and shows up, and we see a competitive fight here, and he delivers like he's been delivering as of recently. Very excited for that fight there. I got the Spaniard. Now, that will take us to the main card. We got Yadong Song taking on Julio Arce. We talked earlier about striking matchups. This is definitely a solid striking matchup here. Yadong Song, so quick on the feet, diverse with his attacks. A guy that's just really at the top of the division now. He's 17-5-1. Well, you got Julio Arce 17-4. So as professionals, these guys are very evenly matched. Julio Arce, with the boxing experience, he's very, very fluid with his hands, but he's not afraid to whip up a leg and hit you with a head kick as well. The guy is diverse with his striking attacks as well. Coming off a big victory over Andre Ewell. Ewell is a very talented athletic striker, and Julio Arce just styled on him and made him look like he was not supposed to be in there with him, if you guys remember that fight. So that may have been the best version of Julio Arce that we've ever seen. inside the octagon. So that's a big deal there. I've been high on Julio Arce for a long time. If you guys remember, a funny fight that we saw was between him and let's run it back real quick. His doppelganger, however you want to say that. If you like my pronunciations of the fighters' names, how do you like my pronunciation of the word doppelganger? Because I don't even know exactly how you say that. But Dan Ige and him look like twins. And you guys know Dan Ige is a very talented fighter. Well, Julio Arce handled business that night, took that victory there, took out Daniel Tamer. Did have a loss to Shaman Moraes, who's since left the UFC. A very talented striker, an athletic guy as well. But a lot of people thought that Arce won that fight. It was a close fight. Goes back, knocks out Julian Erosa, has the split decision loss against Hakeem Dawodu. That was another fight. I'm not just saying it because it was a split decision, but a lot of people thought that Arce did win that fight as well. So you take away those two splits, I mean, you're looking at a completely different resume as of right now. He's running the table through the UFC. His stock is just as high as ever. This is a big match for him against Yadong Song. You'd see Yadong getting it in with Cody, no love. And, of course, Yadong Song's been putting in work with Team Alpha Male for quite some time right now. And Uriah Faber has invested a lot of time into him. So, he's shown different elements in his game. Let's talk about Yadong as of recently. Let's talk about Yadong. All right. Yadong Song looked good against Casey Keeney. It was a split decision victory. That was a victory. We talk about splits. That was a fight that was his fight. He deserved to win that fight. That should have been a unanimous decision, in my opinion. Had a little bit of action on Casey there, too. He won that fight. He looked great. Stuffing takedowns. Just making Casey pay in all aspects, in the feet, knees, elbows. He's very diverse with the striking. He did lose to Kyler Phillips before that. Kyler is a very talented fighter. The Marlon Vera fight, some people thought that Marlon won that fight. So put a little asterisk there as well. Some people thought that was a bad beat right there. And other big victories against Alejandro Perez, Vince Morales. Not a lot of big names here. But let's cut to the chase. Yadong Song is a great fighter. One of the best fighters fighting out of China, in my opinion, right now. You put him with Weili Zhang. You put him with the Leech. I mean, you're talking about probably the three best Chinese mixed martial artists in the world. If I'm forgetting somebody, comment below. But he has a tough test in front of him this Saturday. Julio Arce, again, you guys know I'm high on him. Fighting out of Tiger Schulman's. They're no joke over there. I'm going to be rolling with the Tiger Schulman product. I'm taking Julio Arce coming off one of the biggest victories of his career. I think he keeps that momentum going here. And we've seen Yadong get tagged up a little bit on the feet. He has his moments. Of course, he's looking great in his fights, but he has his moments where he's susceptible to being tagged up. I think Julio Arce can definitely show up and thrive in this fight at spots and take this fight here. I like Julio Arce. He's the slight dog up to the plus 130 range, all the way down to the plus 110 range. And a little bit of action coming in on him. And that's going to be my official pick there. It will be Julio Arce. All right, now we'll go over to the second fight of the main card. We got Roman Dolidze taking on Kyle Daukaus. Kyle Daukaus, man. You see the little D over here. There's no green W. Very disappointing. That was big money in my pocket there. But it was a profitable night, that event. But it should have been another. We should have had another victory on that card. You guys know the deal. I know it's probably ruffling a couple of your guys' feathers as I speak about it. But Kyle Daukaus was looking great in that fight. He pulled off the rear naked choke off Kevin Holland. There was the headbutt that happened about a minute and a half before he pulled off that choke. And so he doesn't get credit for it, which is blasphemy. But it was a bad headbutt, and the headbutt did put Holland unconscious for a second, or maybe not unconscious, but it put him out for a second. He dropped. And but let's not forget, before that headbutt, Kyle Daukaus was looking composed on the feet. He actually hit Holland with a nice straight left. We're seeing growth from him in his striking. We know Kyle Daukaus is a very polished grappler. He's definitely talented on the mat. Can push a good pace. Phil Hawes was a little bit of his kryptonite that night. I think stylistically, Phil Hawes. I can get deeper into that, but we'll cut to the chase to this fight. But Phil Hawes is a little bit of a kryptonite to Kyle Daukaus stylistically. I don't necessarily think that Roman is the same exact or this as similar as a fighter as Phil Haas. Roman, a talented striker, he can knock you out, but does seem to slow down in the grappling exchanges. So if these guys start to really go down to the mat and start to get busy down there, I think that Roman will be the guy that's breathing a little bit heavier. I think Kyle can really push a pace, and we saw Kyle thrive in the third round against Brendan Allen after being down 2 rounds, came back, took his back there, took that round. I mean, Kyle Daukaus can really go. Now minus 250 we see here. We'll take a look at the live line. Where's Daukaus at right now? Because that's a little high in my opinion. Minus 225 up to the minus 245, 250 range. That's a little high as far as I'm concerned. This guy Roman is still a very, very tough guy and could possibly be undefeated right now, 10-0. The Trevin Giles fight was very, very close. It came down to that 1 round in the fight, and but again, that was a fight where he was breathing kind of heavy and was kind of if you catch my drift, when he gets engaged in some of these wars, his strikes come in a little bit wobbly. His sense of balance is a little bit wobbly, and he just seems to lose. As do all fighters, they lose a little edge as they're in there and they're mixing it up. But he seems to lose it a little bit quicker than some others, at least from what I remember from watching him on tape. And Kyle Daukaus, I think he'll be peppering Dolidze up with the volume there. I like Kyle to win this fight. I think that Kyle, continues the momentum off that Holland fight. The big victory over Dustin Stoltzfus, was able to handle business there. The Brendan Allen fight, we talked about that fight. He took that fight on short notice. Both these guys have a 76-inch reach, very, very rangy for the division. Both these guys big boys, 6'2" and 6'3". No real advantage there. I like my boy Kyle. I think that he just keeps the activity and the pace going a little bit better than Roman. I think Roman slows down. He's looking more for those power shots. If he doesn't really hit Kyle with a big power shot that really influences the fight, I think Kyle will be light on his feet and he'll be peppering Roman up, and I think it'll look better for the judges' scorecards. I like Kyle there. I like Kyle Daukaus to win that fight. All right, we got Felicia Spencer taking on Leah Letson. An interesting fight here taking place in the featherweight division. Leah Letson hasn't fought in almost 3 years. You guys remember her from The Ultimate Fighter. Had that split decision victory in the Ultimate Fighter finale against Jojua Storliarenko. And that was an entertaining fight. It was a fun fight. I was breaking down tape on that recently. And Leah looked very good in the first round. She showed to have some crisp boxing. Saw her landing some nice straight shots that had some pop on them. So she does bring the fight as well. So that might be a little bit of the reason why the UFC is giving her an opportunity here in the main card. Not exactly sure what's going on with the long layoff there. If anybody has some insight on that, we can get into that in the comment section. She's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. Fighting up in the featherweight division now. How is she going to look here in the featherweight division? Bumping up in weight. She has a 1-inch height advantage, so she has that frame. You see she has a bigger frame than Felicia here. The problem I have, though is that, in that last fight against Storliarenko, she was taken down at times. She seemed to slow down as the fight progressed in the second and third round. She slowed down a little bit. She was on her back a little bit. We know that Felicia Spencer is a girl that can definitely can exploit your grappling and can take you down and work you down there if you're not ready for that and if you slow down with your pace. So, Felicia, not the most technical striker, but she's been working on that. She's very tough on the feet. She's a tough girl. She'll eat some shots to try to walk you down. She was in there with Cyborg, right? Went to a decision with Cyborg. Not a lot of women can say that. Bounced back with a nice victory over Zara Farin. And then she loses to Amanda Nunes and Norma Dumont. Dumont looking very good recently, so that split decision loss, which was a very close fight, doesn't look that bad right now. Felicia, the Phenom Spencer, is a solid fighter. I got to roll with Felicia here. Too many X factors here. Again, Leah hasn't fought in so long. Her last fight almost 3 years ago. Let's see how she looks up at the new weight class. Meanwhile, Felicia just always happy-go-lucky, grinding it out, and that she'll be nice and comfortable in there when it comes to the fight night. She'll be in there. She'll be looking to perform, and I say she gets it done. We get the live line right now. Spencer's right around a minus 350, all the way down to the minus 290 range. So she's a pretty hefty favorite. She's a 3-1 favorite. You know, we'll see how that fight plays out. I'm not necessarily crazy about touching that fight one way or another as of right now, but some X factors there. High line on Felicia. It's one of those fights that you can't really say you kind of really know how that fight's going to take place, in my opinion. We'll see how that fight unravels. All right, we're at the co-main event. Big Ben Rothwell taking on Marcos Rogério de Lima. Now, normally I'd probably hate on this fight a little bit in the co-main event slot on a UFC card, and that's no shade to Ben Rothwell because I'm a big fan of his. But Marcos Rogério de Lima, all right, you know, not the biggest name in the division. Yeah, the one thing I will say though is that these guys both bring the fight, and they tend to be in entertaining fights. Ben Rothwell, as long as his cardio is not just completely giving out on him, I mean, this is a very, very dangerous man. He can walk through your punches, land his big shots on you. He has the submission skills. He has kind of like a catch wrestling type style, you know, using those power submissions. He'll grab a hold of your neck. He'll pop your head. I mean, don't get it twisted. That's what he's all about, man. He will finish you in there. You know, coming off a big victory against Chris Barnett. Chris Barnett did take that fight on short notice. And we do know that Chris Barnett, though, is a talented dude. So kind of broke him in that fight. You know, he pushed the pace, broke Barnett in that fight, pulled the submission off, lost to Tybura before that, and then he took out Ovin St. Preux and Stefan Struve before that. Andrea Arlovsky took him out before that fight, and that was a fight where you really saw Rothwell slow down in that fight. He looked to be gassed out within the second round, if I remember correctly. Marcos Rogério, not a guy that's really going to have the best of cardio. This is a guy he's looking to use his explosiveness and his athleticism for the division. He's a big boy, but he moves around decent in the beginning, and he has some real pop on his strikes. He can definitely knock you out when he lands his shot. Although it's the heavyweight division, almost all of these guys could, but specifically, De Lima has some real power when he lands. Trust me, he throws some heavy leg kicks as well. As of recently, it's been a checkered resume, win-loss, win-loss-win. Taking out Adam Wazurek, the Polish fighter. I don't even know where he's at these days. Lost to Stefan Struve by arm triangle choke. That was a fight where he was winning, almost knocked Struve out, and then gassed out. He really blew his load early. So again, you take you take a look into that fight, and you do realize that he has had cardio issues in this fight. He really lays a lot out there in the early rounds and starts to really slow down, which could affect him here. Lost to Alexander Romanov, you know, got absolutely just bullied in that fight. The forearm choke, you know, when's the last time you saw a forearm choke before that? It was nasty. Romanov really showing what he's about there. And then, but bounced back with the victory over Maurice Green. And that was a fight where he was just continuously going to the takedown and just exploiting Maurice Green's takedown defense. So understand what that fight was. It was a very boring fight. If you guys remember, one of the more boring fights we've had in a long time, almost 6 months ago. And, you know, I don't think Pazal is going to have the opportunity to just be taking Rothwell down and laying on him here. This has the makings to be a brawl. These guys are going to be clashing. Ben Rothwell does not play that. I mean, you see Ben Rothwell right here with his baby boy, got the Viking hat on, Clan Rothwell, Odin. I mean, this guy is legitimately cut from that type of cloth, if you guys catch my drift. And this guy's got Viking blood. He's got some type of Nordic blood all up in him. And Rothwell is built for war. I mean, how many professional fights does Ben Rothwell have at this point? I mean, look at this. 49 plus 3, 52 professional fights. I mean, an absolute warrior. We know him from the IFL days, and he's been fighting forever. 40 years old, but it's the heavyweight division. I don't put too much stock into that. Pazal's 36. It's whatever. I think if Ben Rothwell comes in shape, he needs to be working on the cardio, comes in hungry for a victory here, he gets the job done. And I think that he probably gets a finish here too, because De Lima doesn't really like to get beat on, doesn't really like to be on bottom, and he'll kind of look for a way out. So once Rothwell starts to take over, I could definitely see some type of submission victory. I got Ben Rothwell winning the fight. We take a look at the live line. Ben Rothwell from the minus 140 range all the way up to the minus 167, 175 range. So it just depends what book you're looking at. But overall, right around a minus 140, 155. Not a crazy favorite here. We understand that Ben Rothwell has has some holes in his game as of now. The cardio is an issue, and if he slows down, it could be a rough night for him. But the only thing is, his fighter really doesn't have cardio as well. So, interesting matchup. This is a cool fight. Again, as I said towards the beginning when we talked about this fight, normally in a co-main event spot, I'd be like, but you know what? I think that this fight delivers, and it's a fun one. I kind of get that type of energy coming off this fight here. Hey guys, if you're looking to work with me with my official plays, do not hesitate to reach out. MMAFortuneteller@gmail.com. Catch me on Instagram, shoot me a DM, MMAFortuneteller_, or if Twitter works best for you, the MMA Teller. I'm telling you guys, I've been absolutely killing it. Since July 31st, we were up 60.68 units going into this past weekend's card. We took a very, very small loss, a 2.23 loss on the card there. So, I mean, we're still at that 58 plus units since July 31st. We've been killing it. Every year we're profitable. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. You guys know when I even if I slightly lose on a card like we just did on UFC 268, I'm coming in with a vengeance here into this upcoming fight card. You know I'm going to make it a very profitable event. Don't hesitate. Reach out to me. Work with me on my official plays. I'm willing to work with you guys on the pricing and all that. If you guys are interested, shoot me a message. All right, boys. Max blessed Holloway taking on Yair Rodriguez. Two of the best strikers in the UFC. Forget about just the division. Two of the best strikers in the UFC. If you're sleeping on Yair Rodriguez's striking, something's wrong with you. Because I've came across some of you guys before in the past. Yair Rodriguez, you guys better recognize, is one of the nastiest strikers in the game. He may slow down a little bit in the later rounds. I mean, he doesn't have a gas tank like Max. And Max has a very different type of striking where he's really pushing the pace and just peppering you up. Yair has that more explosive and wild type of striking. We've seen him land one of the most crazy knockouts we've ever seen in mixed martial arts. Of course, you guys remember the Korean Zombie knockout with seconds to go. But remember now, he was losing that fight up until that point. Keep in mind there, was losing the stand-up battle against the Korean Zombie. Then he had the battle with Jeremy Stephens 2 times in a row. We had the eye poke, which was horrible. Remember that fight taking place? I think it was in Mexico City. They bombarded the octagon with Modelos and Coronas. They're throwing the beers in there. But we ended up seeing how that fight took place, and that was 2 years ago. And he took out Jeremy Stephens. Now, real quick, let's talk about that fight. Yair looked very, very good in the beginning of that fight. Dropped Stephens. He was putting it on him. He's so explosive, so nasty on the feet. He slowed down, though. Jeremy Stephens ended up, didn't he win the third round? I believe Jeremy Stephens won the third round there. Yair slowed down in that fight. That's a little bit of an issue here when you're going into a 5-round fight with a guy like Max Holloway. Hence all the line movement and hence the line being so high in Max Holloway, which we're going to get to in a second. But Yair Rodriguez is extremely dangerous in the beginning of the fight. If he's able to land a big shot on Max, it could help him, of course. The issue with that is Max Holloway has such a granite chin. I mean, I think that if Yair is going to land that big shot, I think he really needs to put Max away, because Max will continuously come at you and he'll get right back into his mindset. Even after he gets wobbled a little bit, he'll zombie through it and he'll keep coming forward and he'll push the pace on you. This is a tough fight for Yair. It really is. And I get it. Stylistically, there's some things that are good about this fight for Yair. That the fact that Max is willing to exchange on the feet, he'll give Yair those opportunities to try to land something flashy. This isn't like a Frankie Edgar fight where Frankie just rips you down to the mat and brutalizes you down there. So Yair will have his opportunities to land the nasty striking that he does have. He just better have been working on his cardio. I don't know. He should be training over in Mexico City, man, up at altitude up there, and be grinding on his cardio, because if he doesn't, Max Holloway is going to take years off your life. We saw it in the Calvin Kattar fight. That's the thing, too. You want to talk about motivation. If you're not up to par with your cardio, if you're not able to go for 5 rounds with Max, he's going to take years off your life. Like I said, you saw what we did to Calvin. I mean, if that's not motivation, I don't know what motivation is, because Max is just disgusting with his style. We saw it here against Calvin Kattar. I mean, Calvin Kattar was absolutely destroyed in that fight. That watching that fight, which was one of the more enjoyable fights I've watched. For that fight, I had, if you guys remember, that fight was a Fox card, I believe, because I was able to throw the antennas on my TV. Me and my boys, we rode out to the Everglades, and it was a beautiful cold day. And we threw the TV up in the back of the pickup truck. We had the cooler right there, and we were just chilling out in the Everglades on the water and stuff. It was amazing, and had the fights going there. What a day it was. But if one thing I specifically remember about that day, I'll never forget this fight. Max Holloway just putting it on Cater. It was almost hard to watch, almost, because there's really no fights that are hard to watch for me these days, and I'm sure not for you guys either, with all the thousands of fights we've watched and all the blood we've seen poured. But Max Holloway, he will be too much here for Yair if Yair cannot put him out early, or if Yair doesn't show to evolve with his cardio. The old Yair that I've seen is not going to be able to really hang with Max in those later rounds. He's still young. Like I said, we talked about the motivation facing a guy like Max. He might show up and be in the best shape of his life. It's definitely a realistic possibility. Keep in mind that Yair has some really, really unorthodox and flashy strikes, and he could catch Max from a variety of angles. Also take into consideration, Max Holloway has taken a lot of damage in the fight game. Remember what Dustin Poirier did to him? He's been in some wars, and there's some guys, man, the wars start to catch up with you and the chin starts to shut off. I just don't see Max being that type of guy. The shots that he's taken, I just feel that he's cut from a different cloth. He's that Hawaiian type fighter, man. Those guys have crazy chins. I don't know what it is about them. I just think that he's going to be able to take those shots and just keep going through them. We just saw that recently, right? Who was that? Justin Gaethje, right? In the Justin Gaethje fight that we just saw, we know that Justin has taken so many shots throughout the years. We wonder, is that chin ever going to catch up with him? He's getting a little bit up there in age. It's just not going to happen. There's just, some of these guys are just different, man. And I think that Max is just like Gaethje. I think he eats all the shots, pushes the pace. I think this fight takes place in the feet. I think Max dictates the pace of this fight and just pops the jab and pops the left, right, 1-2, left jab, left straight, jab straight. And I think that he just really puts it on Yair here. Yair will be looking for some wild type attacks here and there. Overall, though, I got to bank on the fact that Max Holloway just delivers here and gets the job done. We'll take a look at the live line. It's pretty ridiculous, though. Max is all the way up to a minus 650. I think that's a little crazy. I wouldn't really want to do nothing with a line like that. You wanted to be on this line when it was over here. But even then, let's not disrespect Yair again. I told you how I think this fight's going to go. But again, the fight game's crazy, and Yair is a nasty striker, and he will have opportunities to throw some of those standing attacks there and try to really hurt Max there, or maybe even try to score some points and hold up on a decision. Maybe he could take 3 rounds. But good luck to him there. It's going to be tough. I got Max to win the fight there. All right, guys, that's going to wrap things up here. I got to give you some parting words as we wrap up this video. Today, what I want to tell you guys, obviously, if you're listening to this video, 99% chance you're a sports bettor. You're betting on these MMA fights. I want to make sure you guys are being responsible with your bets. Of course, in the line of industry that I work with, I come across all different types of people. I've seen people blow thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars within a day's time frame. I've seen some nasty situations. I want to make sure you guys aren't making mistakes like that. Make sure you have good bankroll management. Make sure you guys are making responsible decisions. Make sure you're being crafty and witty with your moves. I mean, you see it last week. I took a couple of shots on some dogs, and it was a slightly unprofitable card. But even after hitting 2 of 5 plays, not even missing 3 plays, we only have a 2.2 unit loss on the night. You want to be responsible with your plays. You didn't see me going crazy after I had a slight loss, going out chasing like an animal. Do not chase your plays. If you lose a couple plays, slow it down and look for a solid victory to right the ship. Don't start just chasing plays that you would have never touched in the first place, because you will find yourself in a world of disaster. You'll lose that, and then you'll chase even more so, and before you know it, you will run through your account, or you will run through thousands and thousands of dollars that you got. If you got it, if you don't have it, then I guess you can't lose it. But you might lose $10 and you might start pawning your little bicycle and maybe your basketball or something like that. And you don't want to do that either. Be responsible with what you guys are doing out there. You guys know what I'm talking about. That's what we're all here for, man, to be smart about the moves we make and to make money betting on these fights. We love betting on the fights. It's the most fun thing to do, but you got to be responsible and you got to make crafty and wise decisions. That's what it's all about, man. You know, you keep your head on your shoulders and don't be a sucker, man. All right, guys, remember that. And we're going to go into this upcoming weekend. We're going to make it a profitable one. I'm excited to be in your guys' ear saying it's another profitable event. Catch me on Instagram. You'll see me on the story chirping this upcoming Saturday, MMA Fortune Teller _. And if you don't have an Instagram, you'll see me right here on YouTube breaking down or recapping the fights before we get into the following fight card. And you'll be hearing me saying it's another profitable event. Calling it now. Let's get it, boys. Signing out. Teller.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.